welcome you to our episode. This week, we are talking about the coalition. The coalition. I think that's the latest gist in town. Um, political heavyweights coming together, to form a new party. Hope probably they in a bid to oust President Tinubu or stop him in 2027. And then of course it's no longer news that this coalition is being led by the likes of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. We also understand that Peter Obi of Labour Party is also there. We know that El Rufai, the former governor of Kaduna State, is one of them. We know that Chibike Amaechi of Rivers State is also part of the coalition. We understand that there are some others, I think maybe Sule Lamido and the rest of them. But well, it's a gist that everybody about town knows that some politicians want to do the kind of thing they did in 2014 when they formed the APC with the CPC coming together with Alliance Action Congress, of Nigeria, ACN. That's Tinubu's group, and then we also had part of the NPDP, the new PDP, led by the G5 governors led by Rotimi Amechi, and then also we saw Atiku. I think he was also part of that. Kwakwanso was there, and very many of them. We had the faction of Abga led by Rocha Sokorocha of Imo State. They were all part of that 2014 coalition. And they formed the APC that became a massive movement that eventually ousted PDP and ended their 16-year reign in Nigeria. It was a moment for the APC then. Some of them had been in opposition, active opposition for several years, and then suddenly they saw themselves, and of course they made a good choice. Well, then to win the election, they brought Buhari because probably he's the only one that has that kind of fellowship. According to them, he has about 12 million votes, from the north, and for all the elections, he's run, that has been consistent. Well, it's not easy to be a living legend, to have people keep following you, whether you do well or you don't do well. For them, he is there. Let me not use the word God, but he is the leader that they are pleased with. So wherever Buhari is, that's where they. Well, some persons have argued that even with the 12 million votes, he didn't win elections in the past. Well, that's because it was not spread beyond the north. I think it was just a northern thing. So this time around, maybe the coalition will look for somebody who has that kind of a similar thing, and then maybe get the spread in the east, west, and then, of course, the south, south. So that's probably what they are looking at, and maybe that's why they want a Peter Obi to run with an Atiku, because Atiku in the last elections, to be candid, he had about 6 million votes, very close to President Tinubu. And then, of course, Peter Obi also had about that same figure. For them, if Peter Obi had not run or if Atiku had not run, they would have been able to defeat the president, Tinubu. But who knows if those people would have, switched to Tinubu's camp, if assuming there was no P2B or there was no Atiku. Don't forget that ethnicity, religion also play a role. I think P2B actually won, got the votes, spreading across beyond the party lines, beyond the ethnicity, and beyond religion. I think give it to him. He tried. Well, so now the plan is that maybe an Atiku and a P2B, but again, the people are asking P2B with his popularity rating and all that, can he step down from being a presidential candidate to a vice presidential candidate? Well, the important thing for them is to win. So I think they may not bother. And then if Atiku, like he says, will do a one tenure, if they win, then maybe that will bring P2B as the presidential candidate. And who knows? Well, only God knows what the future actually holds. We all do our permutations and calculations without really being sure of what God actually wants. He's the one that gives power, to whoever he will. So, well, this coalition has been on, and then for me, I'm just wondering why people easily want to align with the same persons that actually scuttle their um, attempts to become in the past. That's why people call them a marriage of strange bedfellows. People that never agreed before suddenly agree, well, because they have a common enemy, and that's political enemy anyway. I think personally they have relationship with Tinubu. It's not really about enmity in that form, just because of power. So I think that coming together, well, maybe they may have put their differences aside. For instance, the likes of El Rufai. El Rufai was Amechi's man Friday. In fact, the calculation was that Buhari was going to hand over to Amechi, and El Rufai would have been the running mate, the vice presidential candidate. But last minute, towards it, we began to hear some kind of unpleasant sound bites from El Rufai. He was not even interested in running, and eventually he pitched his tent with Tinubu and abandoned his friend. We don't know what went wrong. Some persons say it was because of the issue between Amechi and his nominee, and what's her name? Hadiz Zabala Ahmed of MPA. Well, I don't know the details. I don't know what actually went wrong, but it was surprising. But according to Amechi too, somehow he also said maybe because it's a religious thing. So who knows? But today they are coming together, and they now belong to the same group of people that want to. I hope that we will not last minute begin to see people also begin to shift grounds again and say, no, I made a mistake to support this person. Now I've realized, this is very common with politicians in Nigeria. Today they say something, tomorrow they say a different thing. They call this, you see somebody comes on national TV, calls his fellow politician names, this, that. Tomorrow he changes and begins to tell you that this is the best. Well, I didn't know that Atiku was one of the best in the country. I'm surprised that those who never wanted him in the past are the ones who are now running around him. Well, some say he is just the face of the group, and they've not agreed on who will run. Well, some persons have said the coalition is just a coalition. Of course, it's normal. There will always be coalition in politics, but we hope that this time around, it will not be one that we hurt so deeply. But again, the question is this: how do they intend to achieve this? And of course, Amechi's birthday, 60th birthday, was on the 27th of May. I think the celebration was on the 31st of May. And then Atiku spoke. Yeah, the topic was of the lecture was weaponization of poverty, a case study of Nigeria. Nigeria as a case study. And then, of course, it was the guest lecturer was Professor Wole Soyinka, the erudite scholar. You know him. He spoke, and then he eulogized Amechi, and then commended his courage for always standing, even when he should have succumbed. He insists on what he believes in. Well, to some persons that may be expedient, in real life situation, but when you play politics, sometimes you need to bend, sometimes you need to be flexible. Well, that's it. For Wole Soyinka, who is not a politician, that's actually a virtue. But for those who are politicians, particularly those who have followed Amechi and who felt that they've been having serial losses, they may think that that is not needed in Nigerian politics. Sometimes you need to bend and allow things to, take shape. Maybe if Amechi had also bent, become maybe it was flexible in 2014, maybe Jonathan would have finished his tenure, and who knows, maybe the next presidential candidate from the north would have probably chosen Amechi as running mate under the PDP, and he would have been the vice president, and probably now he would have been the president. Who just knows? It's just maybe and maybe. Well, sometimes we do things and we believe that we are doing the right thing, but we end up, making mistakes that will cost us so much. So we have to go back to the drawing boards, and I think that's what they are doing now. Now, Atiku said something in the course of the birthday celebrations. He said that they are conspirators, that the majority of the people who are gathered here, who are part of the coalition, are conspirators, those who conspired against Jonathan to bring down not just Jonathan, but the PDP ended their 16-year reign. That talk, very heavy. And if you look at it, he's right. Very many of them, even though people like Babangida Aliyu of Niger State, then Sule Lamido of Jigawa, then they backtracked at some point, and also Amaechi felt betrayed that this was not what they had agreed. They were supposed to be seven serving governors, who were part of that plot to move from PDP to form the NPDP that eventually aligned with Tinubu and Buhari's group. Well, things happened like that. Maybe they suddenly realized their mistakes, and so they are coming back, to correct that. So, but let me address this issue. When Atiku said that they are conspirators, and who formed a formidable political structure that was able to stop a serving president of the biggest party then in Africa, the PDP, from returning to office. Yes, he made a very valid point. But again, the question is, can they repeat that same feat now in 2027? Because the circumstances then and now are not the same, and the two persons involved don't have the same political strength. I mean, you can't put a Jonathan and place him side by side, but it's a Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been involved in this thing long before now. Nadeko struggle and all that, fought the army to a standstill, was on exile, came back, established himself, and became governor of Lagos State. Used the AD. He was the only governor that Obasanjo couldn't, stop. The other AD governors were stopped in their second tenure, but he was the only one who survived Obasanjo's onslaught. And then he continued from there, formed the AC, from there to the ACN, and then the APC, and now he's president. If you couldn't stop him when he wasn't president, is it possible to stop him now? Well, don't forget, he was also the one who made it possible for Professor Yemi Osibanjo to become the vice president, the running mate to Buhari. At the time, we were even thinking that maybe Buhari would have chosen Amaechi. Well, Amaechi ended up, after becoming the DG of Buhari's campaign and the one who pulled the strings that got Buhari the tickets, ended up becoming a minister under Buhari. Well, the important thing is that there is a coalition, but again, you have to also check. I mean, Atiku um, talking about the conspiracy then should also realize the factors now and then are not the same. So they probably need to put their house in order to do a something due diligence. Then they had governors who had access to the treasury of their states. They could pull the funds. They could get amass the support, from their states to to vote. But this time around, very many of the governors who probably would have even been part of the coalition are rather even defecting to APC. Those who have not defected are throwing their weight and saying that they are supporting Bola Ahmed Tinubu for second tenure. You've heard the likes of Omo Eno of Akwa Ibom say you speak. You also heard some other governors, of the PDP. They have said they are not interested in any presidential thing. They are going to support it, and they are not leaving PDP. So, well, I don't know where the funds will come from. Maybe some of those who have served in the past have saved and amassed a lot of funds which they may use. So let's see how it goes. Well, Adamechi, and then of course after that, Governor Dixon, former Governor Dixon of Bayelsa State, who is a senator in the National Assembly, also gave a clap back to that article speech. He said, "Look, you're talking about." He was there at the birthday, Amechi's 60th birthday, and he said, "You're talking about conspiracy. You conspired against Jonathan, and Jonathan lost out, and then you brought somebody. But the thing is, 11 years after, has Nigeria fared better? What did Buhari do better than Jonathan? That's the question in simple English. And then instead, Nigerians are worse off, compared to what he was during Jonathan's time. So you need to shine your eyes. He told them, shine your eyes. Shine your eyes is Nigerian local language that says you should be very careful, you should be calculative, you should look before you leap to be sure you don't make mistakes again. So it's not about what you did in the past, but it's what you're going to do in future. And I think that was a strong clapback by Governor Seriake Dixon, standing in for Jonathan and probably standing in for what he believes in. Well, I may not have the time to talk about all those who were there at the party, but I know that Atiku was there. Alex Oti, governor of Abia State, who's Amaechi's friend, was also there. Also know His Royal Majesty's MS Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi of Kano State, former CBN governor, He was also there at the party. Uche Secondus, former PDP chairman, was there. Governor Leon Imoke of Cross River. It's been a long time. He was also there. And then we have Sule Lamido. We have Kayode Fayemi. He was one time Amaechi's Man Friday. It's good to see that these guys have decided to, sheath their sword and then also narrow whatever that divided them and come back to the way they were. Of course, don't mind politicians. Power will always bring them together. You understand? So beyond whatever. So let's see how it goes. We believe that there's still enough time for them to do their job. And of course, the Tinubu group are not also relenting. They are also working hard to woo more persons into the party to continue to give the support to the APC. Well, no matter what, I just want to stop here for now. We'll keep taking you on, and I promise you, we are going to be more consistent. We're not going to have any break anymore. Every week, maybe twice weekly, we should be talking to you about issues in the polity. But don't go away because I'm going to come back in the next episode and I'm going to tell you something that is happening in Akwa Ibom State, and that may probably interest you and call and to be a call to action for your own representatives, whether at the State Assembly or at the National Assembly. Thank you. God bless you. It's still your host, Christy Obi Ndukwe of the Crystal Beam Podcast. Thank you and God bless you. Bye.